Introducing our Celebrate Good Times collection. This collection is absolutely fantastic for a range of different celebrations, whether it's going to be a new baby, graduation, vacations, lots and lots of different occasions that we can cover within this one collection. I'd like to start by quickly showing you all of the elements you'll get as part of this fabulous range. It's packed full of stamps, dies and so much more that you can get crafting with, whether it's going to be graduation, which is exactly what we're going to use for this project that we'll create today, whether it's going to be for vacation. You've got all of those fantastic dies included in this die set, all of your numbers as well with those stitch details, so it's going to be perfect for all those personalised creations, whether it's card making, scrapbooking and so much more besides. You've got your medal there, so perhaps it's going to be achievement at school, a graduation, perhaps a promotion. All those different sorts of occasions are covered within this die set. Alphabet, which will go alongside perfectly that lovely number set, so you've got that font that will match between the two die sets. We've also got our new home die set here, fantastic with all those different individual dies allowing you to build up that particular scene you can see there. You've got your trophy as well, really nice large statement style die for the front of your cards and other projects. You've got your bunting, which will work perfectly alongside your numbers and your letters as well. And you do have your stamp set, so lots and lots of different occasions covered within this clear stamp set to personalise all your creations, and all crowned off by a fantastic collection of papers here. You've got all your 6x6 papers, 36 sheets in total, single-sided, and they are absolutely glorious. Look at all the different colours, really lovely bright zingy colour tones within here, bold striking details, even down to your lovely ditzy little florals as well. So lots of different occasions could be covered, even Christmas as well, within this one paper pad. So it really is going to take your crafting the whole year through for celebrating all of those good times in your life. But as part of today's video, we're going to create a lovely reverse easel style card. So we'll show you how you can create a graduation style card using some of the elements within this collection. We'll start off by creating the card base itself. So I'll move some of this out of the way and we'll bring in our scoreboard. So here I'm using our Scoremaster scoreboard. It can be any sort of scoreboard, whatever you like, whatever you find easiest to craft with. And we've taken a piece of our white cardstock, cut down to 5 inches by 12 inches. And all we're going to do is we're going to score this at 3 inches and 6 inches. So bring in our cardstock, butt it up against that left hand side, working in inches, we'll score at 3 inches. So scoring down onto that score line, and then we'll score in at 6 inches. And that's all the scoring we need to do in terms of creating a reverse easel style of card. So we can move our scoreboard out the way. And at this point, we just need to burnish those score lines. So we'll fold it in half along that middle score line, and then we can just take that opposite end of our scoring tool and burnish that score line there. So now we've folded our card in half, so basically we've got a 6 inches by 5 inch card base. Then that second score line, all we're going to do is we're going to score that backwards, so folding it backwards. So we've got a mountain and a valley score line on these two score lines, and that is the basis of our reverse easel. Now this particular fold on a card is a really versatile fold. There's lots of different card shapes we can actually make from that half and half again fold. So by turning it this way, we could create a fold back card. And by actually folding that inner score line the different way, that could be a traditional easel card. So 3 different sorts of styles of card from that one style of score. But here we're going to fold back and create a reverse easel style card. So we've just got some mats and layers here that we've done using that pattern paper pad, an 1/8 of an inch larger of the black, and then another 1/8 of an inch larger onto that lovely sort of peachy salmon colour tone. Then all we're going to do is we'll take our all-purpose glue. You can use a tape pen or double-sided tape if you find that easier. And then we'll just pop some of this onto the back of this matten layer here, and that will stick onto the base of our card here. So I'm going to have it so we've got almost like the confetti falling down that paper, and that will just go onto the base of our card just like so. And the beauty of using a wet adhesive allows you to actually manoeuvre that into position. Once you're happy with where that is on your card, you can just give that a little burnish and you are good to go. And I've got corresponding mats and layers for these top 2 sections, so exactly the same sort of idea with your black and your lovely salmony colour, and then with your pattern paper as that top layer. And once again, we'll bring in our Collall all-purpose glue, and that will just go around the edges of that piece, a little bit down the centre, and then that first one will go on that top panel there, just up to that first score line. Once you're happy, hold that in position, give that little burnish, and that will stick as soon as it's dried. Just take a few minutes for that to be fully grabbed, so you do have a few moments to actually manoeuvre that round if you need to. And then that bottom one will just go onto that bottom section there up to those 2 score lines. And that's all our matting and layering done in terms of our card base. So we'll leave that to one side just while that dries. And at this point, we're going to bring in some of our nesting dies. So I've taken some of our oval nesting dies, and we're going to do a bit of matting and layering using some white cardstock and that lovely salmon colour. So we've got two ovals, one slightly larger than the other, just using the concentric sizes. So one is just one size up from the smaller one. I'm going to take the smaller one, and that's going to be cut from some of our white cardstock. And then the larger one will cut from this same peachy colour tone that we used for our mats and layers. We'll grab our die cutting plates. Here, using our Gemini Junior plates onto our Gemini 2, we should just about be able to squeeze those two onto our plates at once. And then we'll just pop our next plate down, which is our frosted shim over the top. Then our magnetic shim goes over that. And then finally, it's just our other white cutting plate, and that's ready to run through our die cutting machine. And then all we need to do is just remove our dies from the cardstock, and we've got two absolutely perfectly die cut ovals here, which are going to mat and layer together just like so. So we'll take our waste out of the way, and we'll remove our dies there, and then we'll just glue these two together. So we're just going to grab some of our all-purpose once again, which will give us that wiggle room to maneuver these into position if we need to. Pop some of that over the edge, a little bit in the middle, and then that's good to go and to be stuck onto our mat and layer there. And that's ready to go onto our card base, but we'll leave that to one side to dry for just a few moments before we start to construct the card together. And this is where we bring in some of the dies from the collection. So we've got this lovely graduation cap and scroll here. I'm going to cut these from a range of different colours of cardstock to start to build that scene together. So I've got some black cardstock, which we're going to use for the cap itself. So we've got that sort of diamond shaped die, that's going to be the top of your cap, and you do have a clue on the packaging there. You can see exactly the sort of scene that you can build using these dies. So we'll grab our plates and just start to build this sandwich together. So for our black card, we've got that top section of the cap there, and then we've got the bottom section also from our black card. And then we've got a little bit of a red card, which we are going to cut the rosette from. But before we do that, I will just take these into position because we are going to be cutting quite a few dies at once. So just to make sure they don't move and potentially cross over as they go through the die cutting machine, we are just going to tape those down to the cardstock so they won't move at all. Then we've got our tails for the rosette and the rosette itself, which we'll cut from some of that red cardstock. And we'll just grab our low tack tape once again, just to tape those two to the cardstock to make sure that they don't move. Then we also have that extra element of the cap and the band as well, which we'll cut from some of our peach coloured cardstock. So we'll grab our card. Once again, we'll tape these into position, and you can cut these all in one go using your junior plates, so just saves you on a bit of that cutting time. And we'll tape those two onto that cardstock. And then finally, we've got some of our white cardstock that we're going to cut our scroll in. So our scroll is going to go onto the white, and then finally we will tape that one into position as well. Then we're ready to run it through our die cutting machine. So we'll just go onto there. And then we'll grab our plates once again, same plate combination that we've just used with our oval die. So it's going to be your frosted shim, then you've got your magnetic shim, and then finally you've also got your cutting plate over the top. And that's just going to run through your die cutting machine. Right. You can see you've got the element there, and we've also got the band for the cap from some of our peach cardstock. So we'll move those to one side. We've also got the elements from the cap there out of our black card, so we'll pop those out of our die just like so. Then our scroll, we don't actually want to pop that out of our die cut just yet, so we'll remove the cardstock around the edge and we'll remove the tape, but we want to try and keep that die cut within the die. So we're going to do a little bit of inking on that in just a few moments time. And then our two parts for our rosette, we'll just take those out of the die, remove that tape, and they're ready to be built up and glued together to create our little rosette. So we'll take those out of the die. Of course, you can use a pokey tool to help get these smaller pieces out. And then we're going to come back to our scroll. We're going to bring in some of our water reactive ink. So here we've got our Seal Brown Harmony water reactive ink. I'm going to make sure that we've got our die cut still within the die. So just turn it over and just slide that cardstock so it lines up with the blades of the die, and make sure that stays within position. So just pop that onto my glass mat, that will help keep that in place. We've got a little finger dauber here, which is the best way to get your ink into delicate areas. And we're just going to get a little bit of ink onto the end of that. And we're using our die now almost like a stencil, so we're just blending through there. It's going to give us a detail, but it'll leave that edge of the die cut white to give us that slight border. So just a gentle bit of ink in here, just to make it look a bit more aged, a bit more like a realistic scroll. And then you can see when we remove the die, you've got all that detail. The white is still in there, and then you've got that little bit of colour using the brown. So all it is a case of doing is just starting to build together our cap and our scroll. So we've got the two elements from our cap here. So we'll take some of our tacky glue, and your fine tip glue applicator is ideal for this. Allows you to get into all those nooks and crannies of the small die cuts. A little bit of glue there onto the bottom section of that top part of the scroll. Then that will just line up along that edge there. You can see you've built together that cap there. Then we'll bring in our band, once again using some of our tacky glue along there to get into all of those detail pieces, and that will lay down onto the bottom section just like that. And the final part of the cap is our little tassel here, so a little bit of glue just on that top piece. We don't need any glue along the bottom, so that's going to sort of hang off the hat, so there's no need to pop any glue onto that bit. And then line up that circle with about the middle of our cap here. If you've got any excess glue, you can just wipe that off while it's still wet, and that creates our cap ready to be added to our card. Same sort of idea with our rosette, so we'll start to build that together using a little bit of our tacky glue onto the top of the rosette tails here, and that will just stick those two elements together just like so. And then those can be added to the scroll itself, so we'll pop some glue onto the reverse of our rosette and start to build that scroll together. That's just going to go onto the centre of that, and that's our cap and scroll all built up. Just using some different colours of our cardstock really does make those images pop. We'll bring back in now our little oval die cut here, and we'll start to build this scene together. So we'll take some of our foam tape or our foam pads, and we'll pop those onto the reverse just to lift these proud from that oval and make them really stand out, make a feature of these lovely die cuts. So foam pad into the centre of there. We'll have that hat at a little bit of a quirky angle onto there, and then with our scroll we'll bring in our foam pads once again, and we'll pop a foam pad in the middle of that scroll, and that will also stick onto our oval base here at a little bit of an angle, something like that. We'll bring back in our card base now. At this point the mats and lace should be about dry now, so it should be ready to start to build this together. So we're going to close our card base shut. I'm going to bring in our oval, and what we want to make sure that we do is we don't add too much adhesive to the back of this oval. We want to make sure we've just got adhesive up to where that score line is, otherwise you'll end up actually folding and sticking your card base shut, which is definitely not what we want. So we're bringing our foam pads, and we'll just turn that over and make sure that we're not applying any adhesive over that score line there. So I'll pop a piece on the actual die cut itself, then I'll pop another piece onto the card base. That way I know for sure I've definitely not added too many foam pads over where they don't want to be. And then we'll just peel the backing off, and that will stick sort of centrally to our card base, making sure I've got an even space in there, left and right. Slightly larger space at the top, but that's no problem at all because that is going to be stood proud rather than folded flat. And then with any sort of easel, whether it's a reverse easel, whether it's a standard easel, twisted easel, any sort of easel card always needs a stopper, otherwise it's going to sort of fall down rather than stand proud. So I've got one of the stamps, the sentiment stamps that we've got from the collection. Got all these lovely sentiments for lots and lots of different occasions. So we've just taken You Did It, we've stamped it onto white cardstock, matted and laid onto black, and then that's just going to form our stopper for our card base so it doesn't fall down once it's stood up. So we'll pop that onto our card base, and do make sure when you're creating your stoppers, you do need a 3D adhesive. Something like your foam pads or your foam tape is ideal when you're creating your stopper. And then I've also got a little congratulations sentiment as well, also from the same stamp set, which is going to be that finishing touch on the top of our card. So a little bit of balance from the top through to the bottom of the card. So that's just going to go onto that top left hand section there. And you can see how you can use this fabulous Celebrate Good Times collection to create your lovely concept cards like our reverse easel with total and utter ease. And that's how we create a reverse easel style card using the fabulous Celebrate Good Times collection. A very easy card to put together, but I hope you'll agree those papers and those dies make crafting so much fun and super easy as well.